Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Social Blueprint interview where we are bringing people in a community who you may or may not know, but everybody has a story and has a point of view, and that's what makes people so interesting. But before we get to today's interview, I just want to say, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, sign up to the Social Blueprint. We are so much more than videos. We have so many resources, events in the Melbourne community. We have over 500 organizations, I believe, signed up. There is so much there. It's all at your fingertips. And did I mention it's all free? And now to today. Friends, our community since October 7th has felt so isolated and so alone. But we are here today to tell you that you are not alone. And we are joined by Mark Leach, who's the co-founder, I should say, Reverend Mark Leach, who's the co-founder of Never Again Is Now, which is an organization, a Christian organization with a focus on fighting anti-Semitism. And that leads me to my line where I said that we are not alone. We're here to talk about it. Mark, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's just a delight to be on your program, on your platform, and I hope my story helps everyone with their stories.
Definitely. Hey, Mark, I want to start out. You are a Christian reverend. Just tell us, back up for a moment. How did you get involved in understanding anti-Semitism and really being a proponent?
Yeah, so my background is I'm a walking incarnation of religious intersectionality. My mum was a German Jew who fled the Holocaust and Kristallnacht in 1938, ended up in Africa. Um, she ended up marrying a white South African guy who was a Catholic. So had a pretty irreligious background. I'd normally say, if I was in other context, I'd say, well, I had both Catholic and Jewish guilt, so I had double the guilt. And then I had a spiritual kind of awakening as a teenager and ended up in the Anglican Church. And then later in life, my brother became a Muslim. So I understand Islam, I understand Judaism mostly from the sort of progressive reformed and which was my family. And I understand Christianity. I've spent 30 years working as an Anglican minister, or 25 years as an Anglican minister. So I grew up in the shadow of the Shoah, like so many of us. My mum and her parents lost everything in Germany. We just were always aware of this. But I guess like so many diaspora Jews, and I've always understood my Jewishness. I've always, identify as like 100% Jewish and 100% Christian, just bad at math, and so, but it was never a big deal. I'd take groups to Israel. I'd try and help Christians understand that Christianity is Jewish, that Jesus was Jewish, that if you don't understand that, you're missing out like the most fundamental part of Christianity. But October 7th just activated this part of me that went, something fundamental has shifted in Israel, but in the global engagement with Israel. And then the events of October the 9th, the rally in Sydney, where in the face of the Palestinian protest on the 9th that ended up at the Opera House, I stood up and waved an Israeli flag as a sole counter protest to that, and got chased out of the streets.
Wow.
And we started to see the spiral of radical left and sort of radical Islamic anti-Semitism just bubbling on our streets. And I thought, this has echoes of 1930s Germany. And as a Christian, as a Jew, as an Australian, as an Anglican minister, we can't let that sort of Jew-hating anti-Semitism take root in our culture. We need to step up and stomp on it quickly. And we can't do what so many German Christians did in the 1930s, which is just hope it'll be someone else's problem. It's not their problem. It's not that bad. And, we all know how that movie ended. So I just decided, no, on my watch, to the extent that it's up to me, I need to mobilize the broader Australian community, and starting with the Christians, to fight this hatred. And here we are. Yeah.
That's incredible, Mark. Again, I can't thank you enough. Never again is now. You're a man of action, not just words. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, well, a good friend of a man who's become my good friend, David Lewis, is the president of the Great Synagogue in Sydney. And David was in London through October and November, and he went to a rally in central London organized by a group called Christian Action Against Antisemitism. And David went along thinking it was a Jewish event. And he arrived, and he watched these Christian leaders stand on the platform and acknowledge the horrors of Christian contributions to anti-Semitism over the centuries, and repent of that and say how deeply sorry they were, and commit themselves to ensuring the church didn't repeat its mistakes, but instead stood with the Jewish people. And David found that incredibly moving as an Orthodox Jew. He came back to Sydney and said, we need something like this in Sydney. So through a mutual friend, Jane O'Neill, who's a lovely lady, who connected me with David, and then I brought in another friend. And so 4 of us before Christmas last year sat around and said, we need to do something large and substantial in the city of Sydney to bring the Christians out and join them together with the Jewish community to take to the streets, reclaim the city space, and say, never again is now, that we will stand together to make sure that this hatred of the Jewish people doesn't continue. Fast forward 6 weeks, and we had 12,000 people in the Domain in Sydney, the former Prime Minister Scott Morrison speaking, a range of religious leaders. And it was just an amazing celebration of love and of life in the midst of all tragedy and the misery. So, and the best summary for me, and really why I did it and why I continue to be involved, is one of the Jewish community leaders phoned me afterwards. Now, I can't do an Israeli accent, but if you imagine an Israeli accent coming down the line going, and actually, to tell the story in future, I need to work on my Israeli accents. But he said to me, Mark, I want you to know what it was like for us as a community. He said, it's like on Sunday afternoon, you stood on the stage, you stretched out your arms, and you gave 12,000 people a hug. And for the first time in months, if not years, we feel loved in Sydney.
Yeah.
And I thought that's what it's all about. It's one of the greatest privileges of my life to have been used as part of a large team to catalyze that and to bring that about. And then it became clear to us that we needed to extend this to the rest of the country, where there are Jewish people. And so it seems like we have inadvertently started a national movement, and had an event in Adelaide that was smaller, and now we've got events planned for Melbourne on May the 19th, Brisbane on June the 9th, and then Perth a little later in the year, and then hopefully Canberra sometime in the second half of the year as well.
Right. Well, Mark, we can't wait, because May 19th is here before you know it. And here in Melbourne, we will certainly be joining you. Mark, I want to ask a question, switching a little bit. October 7th, Israel, Hamas. I want to know about potentially reframing it. Is it a question of maybe Western values versus the rest of the world? Is it not necessarily, is it a bigger issue, and are we looking at it incorrectly or from a different perspective?
Well, every event is capable of analysis at many levels. So you can look at Hamas and Israel, and you can look at the history, you can look at the politics internally between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas, and the IDF's response and all the rest of it, and Israeli policy and what's happened since 1948. But you step out, and you're exactly right. We're in a clash of civilizations. Samuel Huntington wrote a book recently, 20 years ago, famously with that title. And my analysis, my take at least, is that what is happening on the border of Gaza, what's happening on the northern border with Hezbollah, what's happening between Israel and Iran, that's the leading edge of this clash between a resurgent Arab nationalist fueled with a particular interpretation of Islam that seeks to
Right.
extend a global caliphate by any means possible, including military jihad. So there's that vision of a of really conquering the world for Islam, coming right up against Western civilization,
Yes.
liberal democracy, inclusion, women's rights, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. So you've got Israel um, at the pointy end of this battle, for
Right.
sure. Yeah, I absolutely think that, and I think we see that being played out on our streets in the Western world. There's been a 50-year strategy on the part of the Muslim Brotherhood to infiltrate the universities and the
Right.
place of influence in Western civilization. They've funded that. They've worked at it assiduously. They've used the diaspora Muslim community to achieve their goals, and you can see the fruit, like how quickly the Western world and the Western universities have turned on Israel and turned on the Jewish people and turned on Western civilization. It's been extraordinary, and it's the fruit of 50 years of work. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's amazing. And you said that when you were a teenager, you were, I suppose, searching for meaning, and religion was one of the forms of it. I suspect what's going on college campuses is also another form of kids searching for meaning. Unless you're living under a rock, you surely have seen a lot of the hostilities around college campuses, and it's globally, it's not just in the US. But what are your thoughts? Because especially, I'd be interested in your opinion as not only a reverend, but obviously you had a lot of questions yourself when you were a teenager.
Yeah, look, we all want a transcendent purpose to live for, don't we?
Yep.
And the university students have been taught by faculty who've said for years, your transcendent purpose in life is to oppose any form of oppression or injustice.
Right.
And actually, it's pretty simple to do that. You just look who the world can be divided neatly into two categories: the oppressor and the oppressed.
Yes.
And if you want to live a good life, and if you want meaning and purpose, you must take your stand against and resist any form of oppression. Um, and so the students have, they have drunk deeply from that well. They are just doing
Yeah.
what their professors have told them to do. And now everyone's shocked and surprised. But you go, no, no, they're just doing that. And I think we've got to tell them a better story and help them find a better transcendent purpose to live for.
Yeah, and again, when you look, religious observance across the board globally is down over the last 20, 30, 40 years. When you said, we have to give them a different purpose, does it have to do with a resurgence of religion, or do you have any answers to that question? It's a big question.
Yeah, yeah. Look, uh, G.K. Chesterton, who's a Catholic thinker, famously said, when people stop believing in God, it's not that they stop believing, it's just that they will then believe in anything. So the other way
That's a
of putting it
great
is
quote.
nature
Yeah.
nature abhors a vacuum. So historically as human beings, we have found meaning and purpose, a transcendent reason to be alive in our connection with God. That's just it. Like, and as Jewish people, we've got the scriptures that take us back 3,500 years. Like, we know
Yeah.
that. And then Christianity is an offshoot of that. So we know that's what I found, right? Um, now, if you take that out, and in our culture, the Western culture has been so thoroughly secularized, there's no God, there's no transcendent meaning and
Right.
purpose. In fact, we're told that there isn't, and we are heirs of the Enlightenment. The French, there was a famous one of the French philosophers famously said, "You'll only truly be free when the last nobleman is strangled by the guts of the last bishop." So when you finally got rid of all authority and all hierarchy and all religion and nobility, then you'll be free. Now, of course, we stripped out God, and we haven't found ourselves to be free because we still need purpose and meaning. And so
Right.
young people are latching on to to the cause of justice, to really anything, to the environmental movement. You pick it, they're trying to find these things. Now, tragically, that vacuum is being filled by Jew-hating, Western civilization-hating, Israel-hating, hard left Islamo-fascists. How's
Yeah.
that for a description?
Wow. Uh, Yeah, and I'm also curious, Mark, you obviously, you've led a congregation. How do you talk to people that have different viewpoints? Everyone is so polarized. It is extremely hard to engage. And I'm not talking about people that are just absolutely against you, but what I mean is somebody that is maybe convincible. How do we speak?
Yeah, well, that's such a good question, and if I had if I'd nailed that,
I know.
um, uh, look, I've found it to be useful to ask lots of questions
Right,
and be genuinely interested in the other person, and to come at them. So even in our early discussion about why young people are doing what they're doing, I'm trying to understand the good motivation, the positive. I
right,
don't just want to go, well, you're a bunch of idiots. Well, you go, no,
right,
there's, because we're not. Like, everyone is made, as Jews and Christians, we believe everyone's made in the image of God. So how do I find that part of somebody and really honor that? And
right,
even if you disagree with me deeply, I want to honor that part of you. I want to assume the best. And then I want to come at you from a place of love, not of fear or of hate.
right,
So that's taking responsibility for my stance and saying, okay, and what I've learned over time, and I continually need to relearn this, you can win the argument but lose the person. So
Tell
so
me about that.
I can win the argument with you. Like, I know more about the history of Israel. I know more about
Right,
jihadist Islam and global politics, the politics of the Middle East, than most of the people I talk to. So I can
right.
batter you over the head with facts. It's the
Yeah,
same religion. Like, I know more about religion than most people I talk to, because so I can batter you over the head with that. And this
right,
is why you have to be observant. And this is, any rabbi can do that. We can all do that. But at the end of the day, if you lose the person, I might have won the argument, but I've lost their heart, because they're like, okay, so you've shown me I'm wrong and I'm stupid, but I still don't want to follow you, because why would I? So,
right. That's
so
a great
you want
point.
you want to win the hearts. It's a battle for the hearts and minds, um, and we need to do it from a place of love and conviction and humility, and admit that we don't always get it right, and it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to be wrong. One of the things we struggle with, we don't recognize, is that shame is a very powerful emotion.
Right.
And changing my mind involves shame, because it means I've got to admit that I was wrong. and
Interesting.
and none of
Yeah,
us like. So if you tell me, yeah, so, and particularly if I've been invested in this thing, right? So I've been out marching with my friends or
sure.
taking a stand, and now I've got to suddenly go, yeah, actually I was wrong. And that's uncomfortable and difficult for all of us. So lots of conversations, lots of listening, lots of patience. Got
Right.
to have a thick skin. And it's this context we're in is so polarized. It's very hard, but that's what I'm trying to do.
Right. Maybe less speaking, more listening.
Which your listeners or people watching this would go, geez, Mark, you're not a very good example of that. Yeah, lots of listening,
Right.
and lots of compassion. Just, like, you're dealing with another person who's just trying to make life work. And, you know, I don't know.
No, no, that's definitely. And again, I want to drill into the young people because I feel like it's such an important issue, that kind of late teens, early 20s, college age, university age kids. Is there anything specific that we can, or ways to lead them, because they are the future?
Mm. Yeah. Um, I that's a very, very important question. What I want to say is, I think before we try and change them, you've got to lead from a place where your own transcendent purpose and meaning in life and are living with integrity from there. So you go, because you see what you can't say to a young person is, um, well, you've got to be all tolerant and inclusive, and they go, well, why? What's the point of it all? And all you can say is, well, young people will look at people my age and go, all you've really done is live for your selfish harbor views and your
Right.
superannuation to spoil the planet. And what are you living for? So I think what young people are looking for is women and men and leaders of deep integrity who are humble and following a transcendent purpose that they are very deeply sincerely committed to. So that's that's what I've found, like in my congregation, in my work, and as I travel around the country now with this, I find young people are drawn to a sense that I'm living for a transcendent purpose as best I can. And man, I'm so flawed. I'm a mess.
Right.
but as best I can, I'm saying I think I need God in my life deeply. He's the organizing priority in my existence. And out of that flow all these other good things. Once they sense that, they're about to listen to you. But if I'm just another selfish, shallow Gen Xer with a political ideology, that's not that compelling.
Right.
I don't know if that seems like a long way to not really answer the question. And I'm
No, I certainly get your point there. Mark, we try to keep it somewhat short there, but again, never again is now. You're taking action. Any closing remarks for people here as we film this in the beginning of May?
oh, yeah. Look, firstly, if you're Jewish and you're watching this, you're not alone. I can't speak for all Christians, but to the extent that it's in my power, uh, we are with you. We stand with you. And we will continue to stand with you. If they come for you, they've got to come through the church. They've got to come through us first. That you're not alone. That's not to say we're going to do it all perfectly, but we're here. The second thing I'd say is join the movement. Like what's so lovely about Never Again is Now is that it's Jews and Christians working together. It's a
Yeah.
whole. It feels to me in this civilizational battle, it's a whole new season of like just connecting with each other, finding common purpose, finding our common root, the common roots of our faith, and the organizing principles of our community and our society, and working together. So join the movement. And then the third thing I'd say is, in whatever way deeply truly works for you as a Jewish person, connect with God. Get back to shul. If that's get back
Right.
to a deep, meaningful engagement with God, because that is where the sustenance and the energy for this kind of life will come.
Mark, those are fantastic words. I can't thank you enough. I can't appreciate what you're doing enough. More May 19th in 2 weeks' time, we'll see you.
See you there. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Greg.
Thanks, Mark. Bye bye.
Bye then.